Welcome to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, who I absolutely adore.
Thank you so much.
For so many reasons, and thank you. This is an amazing woman, and she is a true expert, I believe the preeminent expert, and I'm not alone in this, in the field of autism, having worked in this field for more than 3 decades, treating people on the spectrum from the very earliest ages up through senior citizens. She has been a tour de force in this community and continues to be, and much more than being an expert, she's a visionary in this field. She sees things coming and prepares for them.
Thank you.
And tries to prepare us for it, which is, I get emotional when I think about that, quite honestly, Dr. Granpeesheh, because we need that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shannon. It's a pretty complicated field, and I've just had the benefit of being here for a very long time in this field. So it's nice to be able to see what's coming and help people. You know, speaking of which, right now I know a lot of people are very worried about losing benefits because of the new presidency and the possibility of Obamacare going away. But having said that, you know, we were talking about this the other day, and I would just caution people not to start getting worried right now. Just relax a little bit. Let's not overreact to this yet, because I don't think it's really possible for Obamacare to just go away without something replacing it right away. So I want to just tell people not to worry right now. The minute we know anything, we'll let everybody know. But right now, we're pretty certain it's going to be, if anything, it'll be replaced with something, and I don't think it'll affect autism benefits all that much. So I really want to let people know not to worry right now about that.
And honestly, if we do hear that it is going to affect autism benefits, we'll notify you, and we will notify you how to mobilize. Absolutely. And all those things. But in the meantime, we all need to preserve our stomach linings.
Yeah, absolutely. I know so many people are worried about this, and just don't be worried right now. Yeah. You know, something as big as insurance coverage for autism is not going to be going away overnight. That kind of thing just doesn't happen. And it's like, you know, Bryce Myler, who's an expert in this field, yesterday she was saying it's kind of like saying, oh, all hospital care is going to go away. Like, it just won't go away. And there's such an increase in the numbers with autism that it's not possible to do that.
Yeah, and I appreciate hearing that. I know I've been, you know, catching Bryce Myler here and there. Caught her in the ladies' room the other day, and I was like, you know, tell me what's going to happen. You know, and of course, and she says nobody knows what's going to happen, but
let's not worry. You know, and right now, a lot of people are mistaking what's happening. So what has happened, of course, is that some insurance companies, you know, when we're talking about through Obamacare, some people, a lot of people with families who have autism have chosen like a certain policy, and those policies, obviously, in some states, I just heard yesterday that in Arizona, I think Blue Cross Blue Shield through Obamacare is going away. That happens, like United Healthcare in California is going away, the ones that are through Obamacare. And what happens is, the reason for that is that there's a skewed number of individuals with a particular disability, probably autism, who have now skewed the numbers for that particular type of policy. So that type of policy is basically going away, leaving the state. But all those people who have those particular policies have an option to switch to another policy. For instance, in Arizona, everybody can switch to HealthNet. You know, there are other options, but it's just that insurance, of course, you know how insurance works. They work based on the premise that there's a even number of people. Some will have problems, others won't, and so it pays for everyone.
Right.
If you have too many people sign up who all have a particular issue, the insurance essentially has to shut down or go bankrupt because they're paying out benefits to everyone. That's what's happening in a couple of locations now because Obamacare has been around long enough for that result. But that does not mean that Obamacare is being repealed. That's a completely different thing.
Okay. And we'll keep an eye on it as it moves forward, as we find out more information. Okay, I want to jump into some questions because we got a bunch of questions.
Yes.
Okay, hello, my 12-year-old son has autism. He does PE with his typical peers. He loves the class and will do the familiar warm-ups, but as soon as the teacher starts to explain the rules of the game, he starts running around the room being disruptive and is sent back to his special education class. How can they convince him to stay and listen? He may have ADD as well, and thank you.
Sure, and that's a pretty easy solution right there. What I find with a lot of our kids is they start doing various challenging or maladaptive behaviors when they don't know what's going on around them. It's not necessarily that all of a sudden his ADD kicks in. It's more that he probably doesn't quite understand what's being said, so he tunes out, and then when he tunes out, he goes into like doing his own thing to keep himself occupied. So two things that you should do in order to change what's happening here. One is make sure he understands exactly what the teacher is explaining. So for example, get the rules of whatever it is the teacher is going to explain. I assume there's numerous games, but let's get the rules. Whatever the teacher is going to say, get them, write them down, and at a separate time, completely different from this, sit down with him and go through the rules and go back and forth, make sure he understands them. And then practice at home you being able to go through these rules while he stands there. That's one thing. The second thing is, during this time when the teacher actually starts to do this, it would be very useful if someone, whether it's you or if he has a therapist or someone can help, or the school aide, could let's say the teacher's rules are 10 minutes, I don't know, 5 minutes, perhaps every 1 minute someone could just go over and say, good job standing, really good, being calm and quiet. That's it, basically. What you're doing is like everything else. You want to make sure the child has comprehension so they don't just tune out. And then you want to be able to reinforce smaller segments of the behavior that you're expecting. And that should work.
I got to say that this is one of the things that I dislike about the system of having a special ed class and putting a kid into the gen ed and pulling them out and pulling them out. Because what happens, and I get it, I'm a former teacher, I get it, the teacher has to get a certain amount done and the class size is probably too huge, but we're setting up a circumstance in which the child behaves a certain way and then they don't get the opportunity to learn. And I don't know, like, who thinks that's a good idea, but it makes me crazy.
I don't even know if he is doing this on purpose.
Right, to get out of it.
Yeah, it could also be that he just doesn't want to be in PE and he enjoys more the walk to PE and the walk back. Like, you just don't know why he's doing this. I don't think it's just for no reason. I think that every behavior has a function. We're assuming right now that it's sort of mediated by the fact that he's bored and like he's not paying attention, therefore he's occupying himself with running around, or he gets a lot of attention from being disruptive. But the real thing is to prevent that from actually happening, because once the behavior happens, you do not want to like punish or send him back. That's just failure. Yeah. And I think what you have to do is prevent the behavior, and the best way to prevent it is to do the things I just mentioned, sort of break it down, have lower requirements of him. Perhaps he actually should only participate at a certain time. Maybe he needs a timer to know how long the teacher's speech is going to be. Maybe he needs a visual so he can follow the teacher when they're talking. All these things help, but simplify the task that's being asked of him.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. Good morning. I have an 11-year-old boy on the spectrum. He's in a typical middle school and spends part of his day in a special ed class and part in a gen ed. He has a 1-to-1 aide 100% of his day because the school feels he is unsafe. He has some inappropriate touching of female staff and some hitting and kicking when asked to do schoolwork. He currently has no friends, and it breaks my heart. But how can he work on his social skills when he is always with an adult? Also, how can we get him to work on an assignment longer than 2 minutes? He has a very short attention span. He really likes to take things apart and put them back together. Can we expand on that interest? And thank you for your amazing expertise. I'm going to give you a pen because I didn't give you a pen before.
There's 4 things in here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I appreciate that. So let's go one by one. He has inappropriate touching of female staff, that's 1, and then some hitting and kicking when asked to do schoolwork, that's 2. Let me just note those. And then his social skills, how can we get him to work on an assignment longer than 2 minutes? And then the last thing was, can we expand on this interest of taking things apart?
But yeah. I gotta say, there's one in there too about no friends.
Yeah, the whole social skills area, and how will he. So, don't worry about. The reason he doesn't have any friends is because obviously the other kids are also scared and unsure of how to handle things or deal with him. And as we help improve things, he will start to develop friends. In fact, it's not something, our kids don't develop social skills just by being around other kids. They need to have a lot of skills in place so that they can, at least on the periphery, fit in. I mean, let me tell you, it's very hard sometimes to have people fit in when they do something that's a little bit different. So we have to really help the child have other things that are appealing to the other children in order to be able to develop the social skills. Let's first of all go through and give you some feedback on each of those areas, and then we'll talk more about the social skills. But touching of female staff, most likely the function of that is an attention-seeking behavior. So in other words, when he does it, most likely the female staff react in a certain way, and then the attention he gets from that is what's maintaining that behavior. I don't know. I mean, it is in school, it's special ed, there should be an autism specialist, or the school should have a contract with a board-certified behavior analyst who can come in and do a functional behavior assessment, an FBA, to identify why he's doing that. But assume that it is attention maintained, which basically means that no one should be giving attention when that behavior occurs. Now, it's very hard to say that. Touching a female staff in an appropriate way will always get some sort of attention. So really, the key is to block it, so prevent it from happening. And the best way to do that is to try to identify some of the tells or precursor behaviors, like what does he do, or does it occur around particular staff, does it occur at a particular time, does it occur whenever he's a certain proximity to staff. Figure out what the antecedents are so that you can modify those. So let's say it happens every time he walks by particular female staff. And what you want to do is make sure that whenever he is in their proximity, he has his hands in his pockets, or he has some other object that he's holding on to, so he doesn't do that. So what you will really want to do is you want to prevent it from happening. And over the course of time, he will lose the need for that attention. If he doesn't, you will need to give him something else that can get him the same kind of attention. For instance, instead of touching them, he just says, "Good morning," and then they respond very, very positively. So he gets a more attention for doing an appropriate behavior rather than doing the negative behavior. So that's one thing. The second thing is that hitting and kicking when asked to do schoolwork, that's a demand-based function. So he's trying to escape the task, because when he's asked to do schoolwork, I assume, and then he hits and kicks, he either completely gets out of doing the schoolwork or he delays the process of getting the schoolwork done. So that's an escape or avoidance function, which means that for some period of time he avoids the task by doing that behavior. What has to happen is he has to essentially be forced to do the schoolwork. So hitting and kicking does not get him out of doing the schoolwork. Now, that is very important, but what's also important is why does he hate the schoolwork so much to begin with? So we need to look at the schoolwork, minimize it, reduce it into smaller chunks, increase reinforcers. See, whenever a child responds or reacts negatively to a demand that's being placed, it means that they just don't like the demand. If he had the appropriate language for it, he would probably say, "Oh, I don't want to do the schoolwork." Like, think about all kids, typically developing kids. Very few kids go to homework and say, "Yay, I have homework." So nobody really likes to do it. Why do they do it? There's a number of reinforcers that maintain it in typically developing kids. One is, our parents are proud, right? I make my parents happy by doing my schoolwork. Two is, I avoid the embarrassment of failing amongst my peers. Three is, maybe some kids have the longer term motivation of actually going to a very good school, or they have so much fear from the parent that the parent will be so upset if I don't get into a good school. I mean, there's all these motivations. So motivations are always avoiding something bad or trying to gain access to something good. So in this case, why is he hitting and kicking? He's probably trying to avoid doing the schoolwork, and what he's gaining by doing it is just not doing the schoolwork. He's enjoying that free time. I don't know what happens, but what's important is that he no longer should benefit from hitting and kicking. So when he hits and kicks, it doesn't matter, he still has to work through the schoolwork. He will eventually get that. He will understand that my hitting and kicking was ineffective and that I'm going to have to do it anyway, so I might as well not hit and kick. It is important that the schoolwork be easy enough where he has some success and is rewarded. You can start by making the schoolwork easy and increasing the reinforcers. Then you can gradually reduce the reinforcers and make the schoolwork harder. But initially, that's what you have to do. And with doing those types of things, it would be helpful anyway, because his friends won't get to see him, or the kids in school won't get to see him doing inappropriate and challenging things. The more they see that, the less likely they're going to socialize with him. Now, we can't get him to do an assignment longer than 2 minutes. That's terrific. You just established his baseline. So 2 minutes is fabulous. What you need to do is you need to make sure all of his schoolwork and assignments and everything are in 2-minute blocks. That's it. He does 2 minutes of something, he gets a brief reinforcer. He does another 2 minutes, he gets a brief Let's get him on a good cycle first. Let's get him interested first. Let's get him back into being successful first. And then you can make it, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And I guarantee you he'll be able to gradually increase the 2 minutes. I sometimes start with children where they're just literally 5 seconds of being able to sit and give eye contact, and then before you know it, we're at 15 minutes. It's a very gradual shaping procedure, and it's all about reinforcing small incremental increases. That's really, really important. And then he likes to take things apart. Now, this is a very important thing, and absolutely, you have to develop this. This is so critical. He could very well be someone who's going to be really good at fixing computers, and you need to find some opportunity for him, figure out what types of things he likes to take apart and put back together. Is it electronics? Is it like furniture? What is it? When you find out the type of thing, actually go to like some stores nearby and find out if they have anyone who's doing repairs. See if he could sit with them. You don't have to look around, but let me tell you, if you can find a place where they will allow him to be an apprentice of some type, and very short segments. The other thing is, by the way, a lot of this kind of stuff is online now, so depending on what it is that he likes to take apart and put together, find those repair type videos online for him. Help him develop this skill, because this skill, the ability to take let's say, a telephone apart and put it together, a radio apart and put it together, all that sort of stuff will become one of his primary reinforcers. And then once you have that, you can now use that activity as a reward for, let's say, paying attention, not touching staff. or paying attention to school or whatever it is. So any area of interest is critical to be developed. Now, after all that, what I want to tell you is this. He's 11. Unless you are, and he's in middle school and he has a one-to-one aide, which is actually great for him. That's wonderful. Unless you are actually on your way to recovery, which means basically you think that your child has the potential. I don't know this child. Has the potential to function normally in a typically developing classroom and so on. If you have that, if you think he has that, then great. Keep pushing him into schooling and so on and so forth. But if you think that that's not going to happen for him, then my recommendation to you would be to modify the direction you're taking with him. He already has expressed an interest. That could be something that leads to a vocation for him, a future job for him. If he's really struggling in this normal environment, and I think he's in typical middle school, if he's really struggling there, consider other environments where academic instruction will be less emphasized, and functional instruction, teaching him vocational skills, actually teaching him the things that would interest him might be better for him. Consider that. You can always do a mixture. You can always do like homeschool and then have him apprentice in various environments where he can learn those types of trade skills. You know, in the States we don't have this, but in Europe, for instance, you at middle school level, you can choose if you want to go into a trade or if you want to go into higher education. And this might be something very important for him. So please think about that. The sooner he's in an environment that is naturally reinforcing, the environment itself is reinforcing for him, the better he'll do. That environment for him is going to be a place where he can take things apart and put them back together.
It used to be here in the United States, when I was certainly in junior high and high school, that every kid had to take, the boys all had to take shop.
Shop, yeah.
And there was electrical shop and there was auto shop.
Right.
And the girls, it was very sexist. The girls had to take home ec and sewing and all of these things. But you know, and then by the time I was in high school, there were girls who were taking shop and there were boys who were taking sewing. And then it all went away. But and they don't offer that
stuff.
I do too. And the thing that I think is the horrible thing that's fallout, that it isn't automatically there now, is that now it feels like a parent is like, well, if you want that, you have to choose it, and your child has to go over here, and it's stigmatized. It feels like you gave up. And that's not the case, because we need mechanics and we need engineers and we need people who are seamstresses and tailors and chefs, and you know, because the world just doesn't revolve on all people who went to college and got a degree in business and communications.
That's absolutely right. And it's so important. And it's funny that there is that sort of automatic, people think like class distinction or something, even though we talk about it not having a class distinction in the US. But the truth is, hey, when I go to see my mechanic, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't have any expertise.
Way over my head.
Way over my head. And it's so natural for some of our kids to do these types of things. It's the same as music and other things like that.
Yes.
But please, you're so lucky that you've identified something that he's good at. You have to take every opportunity to expand on that. Every opportunity.
And can I say too that 2 weeks from today, we're starting the Autism-Live Festival of Toys 2016, and we've picked some toys that distinctly play into this, that are amazing. And I said the other day that there's a toy that we have picked that has like blown my mind.
That's amazing.
It's called Makey Makey. I know it's an interesting name, but I'm telling you, for those of you who have kids that have a computer and are 10 and up, you got to look at this thing, and we're going to be demoing it in a couple of weeks. But everybody that's come by and played with it, it comes in this little box, and I was telling my son about it, and he didn't care. He's like, talk to the hand. And I opened it up and I showed him a video online, and he was like, let me at that thing, and had a ball with it. And we had people from IT coming by, and they're like, what is that?
That's so crazy.
It's so It's really cool, and what it can do in the hands of our kids who like to take things apart and put them together. Oh my goodness. Just check it out. Makey. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back. We got a lot of questions coming in live, and we have questions that came in earlier today. So our cup runneth over, but you can still send in questions. All right? Stick with us. Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, and she's answering your questions in real time. We had a question come in from our dear West Virginia mom. She says, hey, Shannon and Dr. Doreen, West Virginia mom here. My daughter has recently been going through a lot medically. She has a genetic condition that affects all connective tissues, including the heart. She hasn't been able to go to school for 3 entire weeks now due to an arrhythmia and severe asthma flare. I knew we'd have trouble with a routine change, and was I ever right? She's extremely emotional, and literally the smallest things are sending her into a complete self-injurious behavior meltdown. Yesterday, she was playing Camp Discovery and all of a sudden started screaming and attacked her younger brother and myself. It came out of nowhere, and I barely had time to react. Once I got her calm, after an hour-long meltdown, I asked her if the game upset her, and she said the monster in the fridge. It was the ice maker dropping ice.
Oh, gosh.
I'm still doing therapy daily, just trying to lower the amount of demand I place on her verbally. Any tips to get through this time with her heart? She's averaging 5 30-minute meltdowns a day.
Yeah. Yes, I do have some feedback. And first of all, as you always say, air hugs. We send you a lot of our love and best wishes, and pray for you to get through this. This is a tough time for your family. It seems to me with you, if she's reacting to something like the sound in the freezer, you know, she needs calmness, she needs peace, and especially with arrhythmia. I assume everyone has been checking her diet. There are certain things in our foods and so on that are stimulating, and you should make sure she stays away from anything that could stimulate her heart, obviously. But some things that you can definitely do just in general that might help are, when she is engaged in whenever you have the opportunity, really, please buy her some noise reduction headphones, you know, like the Bose headphones or any other, the sound reduction headphones. They are incredible. Like, I don't know if you have one, Shannon. I have one, and it changes, it modifies my life on a regular basis. It's pretty amazing. Get the ones that go over the ear, like they cup the entire ear. And then I would take on an iPhone or an iPad or whatever and put a lot of very soothing meditative music, a lot of it. And it doesn't have to be just meditation music. I mean, there's tons of this stuff on iTunes library. Some people like different things. There's also the Irish folk music, which can be very, very soothing and relaxing and stuff. See what she is drawn to, and produce a big library for her, and teach her to use her headphones regularly. Teach her in various environments to actually put the headphones on and to play the music. That in itself will not only, it'll act as an antecedent to calming, but it'll also give her kind of a way to calm herself. It'll be the beginning of teaching her how to self-regulate a little bit. If you notice that she doesn't have the headphones, it might take a little while for her to get used to the headphones. Some kids don't like the foreign feeling of it. Make sure that you do it in very gradual spurts. If there's something that she really likes, for instance, if she likes Camp Discovery, you could always plug it into the thing so she hears Camp Discovery on the headphones. Do it in a way that it becomes a positive experience and not something that you're forcing on her, because I promise you, if you can do this, it will be a life-changing thing for her to have an environment that she can go to that's peaceful. Now, along with this, there's many other things you can do. A lot of our kids have like a huge bean bag, these very, very large bean bags, and you can put it in a quiet corner. Make sure the lighting in the house is, or at least she has areas in every room that are calming, or she has a particular room that she can go to that is calming. The beanbag is there. Her favorite items, perhaps a very comfortable, soft the material that she likes, a type of blanket. If she has, I don't know, stuffed animals or other things that she wants to have around her. Those types of things, like do what you can environmentally to bring a kind of peaceful environment for her. And I think that's the best you can do right now. And when she has these meltdowns, I think all you can do then is to kind of guide her to the area. Often if you can see the signs of it, it's better if you just interrupt whatever activity, have her go to her area. In fact, with some of my kids, we've taught them to request, time out. I want to go to my area. And it is fantastic. Like it really reduces the meltdowns significantly or eliminates them altogether, because they know, they feel it in themselves, and they just stop and they ask for to go there, and they spend, give her a timer there, give her an egg timer or something like that. Allow her to have an out from whatever it is that's causing her that tension.
Thank you so much for all that. I just want to add in that, while obviously it's vastly different for her and what she has going on, I'm somebody who has arrhythmia issues, and my mother had arrhythmia issues, and I can tell you firsthand that, it causes anxiety. It causes you, because, it's your internal thing, and when you don't have control over it, it's very unsettling.
It's very scary. Yes, I've had it too. I know how it feels. It's a very scary feeling.
Yeah, and so I feel, really my heart goes out to her and to you as you deal with this. There've been a lot. It's interesting. There's a lot of autism moms who have issues with arrhythmia, and I didn't realize, but in the last 2 years, there've been all these moms who have written and said, "Hey, I'm having this going on." I don't know whether it's autism mom related or we're all of a certain age, but a lot of women talking about this is so disconcerting, and everybody's been talking about how they get through it, grown women, and it's not easy. So bless her heart. That's rough for a kid who can't even really understand or language exactly what's going on for them. So
absolutely, and it's tough on you because you are worried and you're constantly trying to figure out things in the environment that could produce fear for her, such as the ice machine. And as time goes on, hopefully she will learn more and more of what's around her, and she'll have less fear. But the first time that we thought of using these noise canceling headphones was with a patient who we have in the middle of Manhattan, New York City, which is probably, to me, it's the loudest place in the world. And being able to, and this little boy got to the point where he could actually easily, it was impossible to have him walk from his apartment to school. It was just impossible. He would have so many meltdowns with the noises and stuff, and with his headphones. And we gave him actually glasses, dark glasses, so that he could block things out for a little bit. it was incredible. His life changed completely. So it's just important. We have to always remember how our kids, they differ in how they respond to stimuli.
Okay, great. And again, we send you air hugs. Let us know if we can do more. Okay, I want to move to India now. We have somebody who's written in and said, "Hi, Mrs. Shannon and Dr. Doreen. This is from India again. My daughter is going to be 7 with PDD-NOS. I'm using skills and she is mainstream school doing well. I was apprehensive teaching her a second language, but teacher asked me to try, so I did, and she's picking it up very fast. She is a child who always loved letters and is hyperlexic, so I guess she's picking up letters in the second language. But my question is, will this slow her progress and comprehension of English? Question mark. Can't thank you enough for this show, and thank you for being with us."
Yes, no, I don't think it'll stop at all. I think that if she has interest, then you go with it. You just keep going. And because she's hyperlexic, then I would highly recommend that you use visuals for everything, whether it's English or the second language, whatever it is. Use visuals, because individuals who are hyperlexic are basically they're able to memorize things visually very well. So. And having that hyperlexia is almost like it's a free card to knowing that your child's going to probably do really well. All of my hyperlexic kids do very, very well because they have this ability to memorize visual and particularly letters and stuff where they're reading. So use reading, let her go visual, go with the second language. Many of my kids do very, very well with languages. And I wouldn't hesitate at all as long as she's enjoying it and doing well. And good for you for using skills in India. Thank you, and I hope that it helps you.
Absolutely. And I love that you jumped in and said, let's try a second language, and that she's loving it. That's exciting.
Fantastic, yeah.
Okay, moving on to another question here. Hello, I just watched your video on compliance using the no prompt. I wondered if you had any other resources or videos regarding compliance. I'm an ABA therapist and studying to be a BCBA. And she says, thanks, Kayla. I tend not to, when somebody sends their first name, I get all like, oh, I don't want to share their name. And somebody recently said to me, we're not going to be able to figure out who it is. You can say the first names. So I'm branching out and saying the first names.
Yeah, you can definitely.
It feels scary to me, though. Like someone might be able to figure out who Kayla is. No. But anyway, thank you, Kayla. I'm so excited that you're a therapist and studying to be a BCBA, and that you're interested. And I love that she loved no prompt.
Yeah, good for you. That's really great. So yeah, I mean, go on the Institute for Behavior Training, ibehavioraltraining.com. Please go on there. There's a million resources on how to handle all kinds of stuff. So, no prompt is I'm trying to remember the first time I heard that. It's an East Coast thing that people call it no prompt.
But you brought it up last week. Do you remember that?
Did I remember
you
that?
Totally did, because you were saying don't let them go more than 2 trials before they get it right. And I said, what? Yeah. Why have I not heard this before? And you said, Shannon, you have heard this before. It's no prompt.
Right, except we don't call it, on the East Coast, they called it no prompt. On the West Coast, the name was prompt on the 3rd trial. So it's the same thing, right? No prompt. So. Right. And yeah, so that's essentially a key thing for dealing with compliance or lots of other things, but it is a discrete trial thing most of the time, and it is something we can always remember, is because if someone is failing 3 times in a row, they will tend to get frustrated. But I mean, you want more resources regarding compliance, and I would go on IBT's website, because there's a lot of different, the more you become familiar, and IBT will prepare you for the BCBA, and really there's like hundreds of videos there that you'll find interesting.
And there's a compliance video that I did for parents that's significantly watered down.
That's wonderful.
But not BCBA quality, but I talk about how I learned about compliance from all of you guys, to put it really in concise terms. And Samantha was just reminding we have that on our site as well. But I don't think it's what necessarily what you're looking for. You want the good stuff, which is at IBT.
Yeah, and I think all of it is good stuff. For me, it's always when you narrow yourself to looking at just things from the perspective of, let's say, behavior analysis, you're narrowing yourself. So I like to look at things from the parent's perspective, and I like to look at it from, like, let's say, a psychological perspective and all these types of things, because it just helps me understand things better. So please do look on the Autism-live website as well.
Well, honestly, you guys changed my life teaching me about compliance, because it totally changed the way I parent, changed the way I treat people in my life, the way I treat myself. We go through this with my dog. Is the way that we see this in our home all the time is that I have a dog that barks incessantly and is always on guard and hysterical and ready to defend us with her life.
Yes, that was my dog before I understand completely.
Oh my gosh, it's so exhausting. But she'll go outside and she'll bark at the dogs in the yard next to ours to let them know, I hear you, I smell you, I'm on you.
Yeah.
And she'll start to bark, and if we let them go, they'll just bark at the fence and lose their minds. So I will go to the door and I'll call her and say, Daisy, come in here, and she comes right over and comes in the house, and I close the door, and we're done.
Right.
And everything is fine, and and I do pet her on the head for having come. Now my son will go to the door and go, Daisy, get in here! Right? To let her know. And she doesn't want to come. Surprise. Why would she want to come?
Right.
Why would she want to comply? And then if she does comply and comes in, he's like, no barking outside. And I go, why would she show up for that?
Exactly.
Catch her doing something good, praise her for that,
Exactly.
and make sure that, she will come when you call, which she will only come when you call if there's nothing horrible that happens
Exactly.
when
Exactly.
And that shift, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
so that's what my video is about. The shift in my head, figuring that out. Okay, we've got so many things to cover. Hi Shannon, I love your show. I'm writing an article about teaching English to ASD students. Can you please help me find a source stating how many ASD students are entering college now and in the future? All the best, Sarah. Sarah, I'm going to get to work on that, but I got to have an address of how to get back to you. I have some people that I can write to that can tell me probably, there's not going to be an exact number because nobody keeps track of these things.
No, that's right.
But they can give you an idea.
That's great.
And I do know some people who can do that. Okay. I love that somebody wrote to us and said, who is Donald Trump? If I could find you and hug you, because it's perspective, right? That this is not the only thing going on in the world.
Right.
Love
Absolutely.
that person. Okay. Hi, Shannon. Do you recommend a certain, and I sort of addressed this, but I'd love to have your opinion on it. Do you recommend a certain level on skills before going into the peers program?
Mm-hmm.
They finally re-enrolled into skills. First trying was overwhelming time, and now ready to jump in. This is thanks to your incredibly inspiring and educational show. Best wishes. We love skills.
But thank you for giving skills another chance.
Yes.
I realized very early on that, or no, too late maybe, that I put too much into skills. Like it was just. I guess it was my opportunity to put everything out there that we could at that time, and so we just kept loading in and loading in and loading in, and it became an overwhelming thing.
And you know that I disagree with you on this.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I adore you, but this is the thing I disagree with you on. I think we market it in a way that people get overwhelmed or they haven't enough support, and that's been changing.
Right.
But I don't think you put. What are you saying? You made it too good?
No, it's just too much in there.
How can that be? That is no such thing.
You know what I have? Did I tell you that I have like about another 20 lessons that just came to my mind the other day because of Nikki? Did I tell you this?
No.
So this is actually, I'll mention it here because it's a very cool thing. My daughter is studying psychology right now, undergrad, just about to finish, and hopefully getting into a 2-year fellowship to do neuropsych. She's very interested in neuropsychology.
Wow.
But she came to me the other day and she said she was like, I was studying Gestalt images. And I don't know if the viewers know what Gestalt images are, but they're the way that we see the world. And it would have never occurred to me because when I studied the Gestalt theory, it was a completely different phase. I had already finished studying autism, and in Gestalt theory, like I was in grad school, studying the various types of psychology, and one of the types of theoretical applications of psychology is Gestalt, and this has to do with the way we see things and the way we perceive things in the environment where we always want to give meaning to various things that we see. And by give meaning, what that means is we try to bring closure to it. We try to bring completion to, let's say, images.
We fill in blanks.
We fill in blanks, exactly. And the way we fill the blank in has to do with our prior history. So it's kind of like what you have experienced up to this point produces the gestalt that you're going for. So for example, and we have commonalities, like all humans will, when you see, let's say, a series of dots that are in this shape, you'll consider that to be a circle, even if there's a section of the circle missing. And that's called closure gestalt. So you will close the loop on that. There's a lot of different types of gestalt images and so on. And Nikki's thought was, do you think individuals with autism see gestalt images the same way we do? And I said, that's really interesting. I don't know. Let's look it up. So we looked into it and we found that, sure enough, there's research that's been done in the UK and shows they see them completely differently. Like almost all gestalt images are seen totally differently by individuals with autism. And Nikki says to me, I bet you guys can teach this. And I wonder if it would change the way they perceive things in their environment. And I thought, oh my God, she's totally right. This is the type of stuff we do. We teach the things, underlying things that are different, like perspective taking.
Yes.
And it influences the rest of their lives and so many other aspects. So, you know, I'm adding a whole ton of gestalt activities into skills, which we have Nikki to thank for.
Yay,
but
Nikki.
Going back to skills, the thing about it is, and I really appreciate that you're giving it another chance, because it is complicated when I start working on skills myself and I look at various things. It's just sometimes the questions, I don't like the way I like the assessment. I don't like the way the instructions are written. They're very behavior analytic and they're not friendly enough to parents. I wish they were written in a more friendly way. But I think that also the questions, they're all just too technical, and I like the way the examples are. The examples are very, very helpful, but the questions themselves are like too, I don't know, I'm like, what did we just ask? You know, it's too technical. But having said that, yes, the peer program, I think, is intended for everyone. I don't think that I think you should have a certain level of cognitive ability, or maybe some comprehension ability and so on, to be able to participate happily in the peer level, but the thing in the peer program, but honestly, the peer program has numerous different levels to it, so I wouldn't necessarily, prevent my child from participating in it and waiting for them to get some level of skills. It would be good if the child understands some language and can express themselves. Other than that, I don't know that you want to wait too long. What was your feedback on it?
I had said that there is a series of questions that they ask that I know when you start the peers that they will ask you, can they do this, and just go off of that.
Really basic stuff.
Don't think of it in terms of do they have to have achieved mastery and skills. Just
No, absolutely.
And there can be things happening concurrent, that if you could be doing skills and peers, and I actually think that there are a couple of things that they have to be able to understand to do peers, but the peers people will be able to tell you that.
Yeah, and they'll be able to modify it down for you. We have all different levels of kids participating.
Yes, and it's amazing. I got so many things coming in, but somebody wrote in and said, hello, I'm a special education teacher on my lunch break, and it just came in, so I want to pay attention to this, right?
Thank you.
How can I get a parent on board with our behavior plan for her son? He's in the 7th grade. Mom reports there are no behaviors at home. At school, he has several, and I know that mom and dad tiptoe him around him and don't ask him to do anything. Demands are a trigger. He runs the house. He's 12. He can get help at home therapy for 1 hour a week through county funds, which that makes me crazy, I'm just going to say. But how do I get mom to see that her behavior plays a part in her son's behavior and that it needs to change? It seems almost impossible, but I know you will have ideas, and thanks.
Yeah, first of all, it's so lovely to have you join us during your lunch break. What an amazing teacher, and to care so much about every individual child. You are the definition of what a good teacher is. So thank you for that, to care so much. That's amazing. It's very, very difficult when parents see things from a very different perspective than you as the educator. I would try to I guess I would try to see her perspective in the hopes that she will then be able to see your perspective better as well. So what I would do is, if parents allow, and if you have time, I would love to go home for a visit and just see sort of how things are done in the school, in the home. And then I would really, I guess, join mom in her beliefs, because I think parents become very defensive when, I mean, they already are. It's a natural thing to be defensive as a parent. Let's just start there, because we think our kids walk on water, right? And when someone comes to point something out about our child and then says, this is, everything you've been doing is wrong and this is the way to manage it, you have to be a very open individual to receive that. And more likely, the experience of a parent with a child with autism has been that people have given a lot of incorrect and bad guidance, so they become very protective of their child. Even if they haven't had bad advice, they just become, as parents, we become very protective. So it's important to kind of not battle with that defense mechanism, not fight that protectiveness, but rather try to spend a little bit more time and energy. Don't worry so much about the program for the child, just for like a month. Spend a lot of time in support of the parent and like trying to understand and give support wherever possible. Then I would also ask the mom just a simple thing, like for instance, we would like to tell him to do whatever that you need the child to do, and ask the mom to come to the school and give that instruction to the child. In other words, ask the mom to place the demand that you would normally be placing on the child. So let's say, we want him to do this work, or we want him to come and sit down. Ask mom to physically be there and assist you in making that demand happen. I think only two things can happen. Either she's successful, in which case we have something to learn and we'll figure out how she's representing such a positive stimulus, or it fails and child falls apart, at which point you and mom are now on the same team with regards to figuring out the solution. And it's not you just telling mom, oh, look, he will behave badly in school or something like that. It's just a matter of getting mom to kind of reduce her defenses towards you, and then she'll be more open to doing the things that you suggest. And I feel like it's always helpful if you kind of take that journey together. Parents are more hesitant to follow when there's no trust, and I think this might be able to help her establish some trust.
Absolutely agree. It's funny because to me it goes right back to what we were just saying about compliance, and what I learned about compliance, which is that you have to set up a circumstance in which somebody feels like they can succeed.
Absolutely.
And so what you were saying about, meet the mom where she is, and I do a talk it used to be that it was just with therapists, but now, because I didn't think it was useful to parents, but now I'm seeing it, I'm doing it with more parents, that's about what it feels like to be a parent and how you don't trust and how it gets in the way of
Absolutely.
What you're trying to do. And by the way, if you let me know where your school is, I'd be happy to Skype in and do the talk with a group if you have a group of parents that want to hear it. But the whole idea of at the beginning of it, somebody needs to tell the mom she's doing a good job, whether you believe it or not, that lays the groundwork. And then, as you were saying, get her to do something. The only thing I would say is make sure it's something she can succeed at.
Yeah, or not,
okay.
and then, because then she'll see that it is really hard to succeed in the school environment. The thing about this is, it's, the whole theory of ABA, and I think it's important for parents to kind of understand that unless you actually place demands on the child, like, they will not make it through, and it's about that. It's, when you look at what's happening with her, I'm pretty sure she's not placing demands because her reinforcer is not having to deal with him tantruming.
Absolutely. And she's probably afraid.
Exactly. And that, you said that the person who wrote in said that they walk on eggshells.
Yes.
It is not a comfortable thing to walk on eggshells around your child. And this is a young child. When this child gets older, imagine how they're feeling. So being afraid of that tantrum means we're not ready, we're not prepared, we can't deal with this. So that automatically tells me these parents need empowerment. They need to know how to deal with it should it happen.
Absolutely.
And they need to know there are individuals like you who are not afraid and who can help. And those are the things they're not seeing right now. So,
which is a scary place to be.